Mm. Hello, everyone. My name is Radhika Kakkar. I'm a therapist at MindSmith India. And today's topic is, can exercise or workout give you a stroke? I mean, is that possible or is that a myth? Let's dive into it. There have been a lot of news that has been coming on since the last year or two. There are people who were working out in a gym and suddenly someone had a stroke and they fell down and they were rushed to the hospital. For example, a 32-year-old man died after he collapsed at a gym in Uttar Pradesh, Varanasi. The incident was captured on the CCTV. His name was Deepak Gupta, and it was suspected that he suffered a brain stroke during exercise, after which he collapsed in the gym. So, what exactly is a stroke? So, stroke is something that happens due to lack of oxygen, which reaches your brain. It could either happen due to a blood clot that clogs up a blood vessel in your brain, or a blood vessel bursts in specific part of your brain, due to which you have a stroke. So, exercise is widely celebrated for its numerous health benefits, right? Including improved cardiovascular health, enhanced mood, and better cognitive functions. However, in rare cases, intense physical activity can be associated with several adverse events, such as a stroke. Let's understand what's the relationship between exercise and stroke. All right. So, the physiological mechanism of stroke is when the blood supply to a part of a brain is interrupted or reduced, preventing the brain tissue from getting enough oxygen and nutrients. This can lead to brain cell death within minutes. There are two main types of strokes: ischemic and hemorrhagic. So, exercise, particularly really high intensity exercise, can potentially trigger an individual, but it's not the main cause of a stroke. It also needs predisposing factors to it. A person who has hypertension or cardiovascular diseases or maybe an aneurysm, these could be potential triggers as well. There are certain psychological factors to stroke as well. The risk increases if a person has high psychological stress and anxiety. The risk increases because the chronic stress activates the HPA axis, which eventually leads to elevated cortisol levels. So, during intense exercise, a person with high stress or anxiety may experience an exaggerated response of their nervous system, which could elevate their blood pressure and potentially precipitate a stroke. There are certain people who also have exercise addiction and tend to overtrain themselves. Again, exercise is a healthy way of keeping your body healthy, but overtraining or overexercising can exhaust your body to a level where it triggers your immune system, it triggers your cardiovascular health, it puts pressure on your brain. So, this condition is characterized by excessive training without adequate rest. It leads to chronic fatigue, hormonal imbalances, and immune suppression. The physical strain from overtraining can um, increase the risk factors such as hypertension and, again, likelihood of stroke. There are certain personality types as well, such as type A personality, meaning a person who is highly competitive, who tends to look for things which are really urgent. They work on deadlines, they have a very high stress job, very high stress lifestyle, due to which they have a higher risk of stroke. during exercise. Then there is the neurobiopsychological mechanism, meaning the our nervous system could be dysregulated, due to which it could have difficulty in regulating cardiovascular function during exercise, as well as our brain function. In healthy individuals, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic branches of the nervous system work in harmony to maintain the blood pressure and the heart rate. But if it's dysregulated, which is often seen in people with anxiety disorders or chronic stress, if it's not balanced, there's a chance, or these people could be triggered into having a higher risk of stroke. Then there's also role of inflammation and oxidative stress in stroke risk. Intense or prolonged exercise can induce a sort of pro-inflammatory state, which particularly happens in people who are not well conditioned. There's this model called biopsychosocial model, which goes through all these factors which could lead to a trigger, such as the biological aspect is genetics or your overall health. Then there's psychological factors, meaning your stress levels, how you manage your stress, your personality type or traits. Then there's social factors such as lifestyle and your support system. Again, stroke doesn't happen just because you exercise extensively, but your genetics, your lifestyle, your support system, how you eat, how you sleep, everything has a role. For example, a person with a family history of stroke, high levels of chronic stress, and a demanding work environment may be at a significant higher risk of stroke during intense exercise compared to a person without these risk factors. So, how can we prevent or mitigate a stroke? First of all, stress management. Um, this technique is usually given to anyone with any sort of disorder, be it physical or mental. Knowing how to manage your stress through, be it mindfulness, meditation, taking it slow, to make sure that your stress levels are balanced and your nervous system is regulated during exercise or without exercise as well. Having a personalized exercise plan, every person has a different body, every person has different needs and different limitations. If you know your own cardiovascular health, you know your psychological profile, your fitness level, and you don't overdo it, there's a chance you will never have to go through something as strenuous or as traumatic as a stroke. But person who doesn't know uh, where their limitation is, they might overtrain themselves. They might not have adequate rest, which could trigger something which already is at risk for them. Um, then there's regular medical screening to know if you're at risk, um, especially for people who engage in high intensity workouts. You monitor your blood pressure, your heart rate, anything which could be warning signs of potential problems. Um, there was this study that I actually read um, that investigated the association between physical activity and the risk of uh, sudden cardiac death in adults from general population. It concluded that it wasn't the exercise, um, because the people who reported highest level of physical activity had half the risk of sudden cardiac death compared to those with lowest level of activity. Then there was another research, around 70,000 women without a medical history were given moderate to vigorous exercise, where it was seen that it was inversely related to sudden uh, death risk. The reduction in sudden cardiac death was seen in people who did at least 4 to 5 hours of exercise per week. There are certain myths or there are certain controversial um, viewpoints about stroke. For example, there's this argument against and for high intensity workouts. Some studies suggest that vigorous exercise reduces stroke risk by improving cardiovascular health and controlling risk factors like hypertension, obesity, and diabetes. But then there's the argument against high intensity. Um, it raises concern that high intensity exercises could increase the short term risk of stroke in some people due to a sudden spike in BP, like blood pressure or stress on the cardiovascular system. Then there's exercise post stroke treatment. Some people think that too little exercise will reduce how a person heals, and too much too soon will impair their healing journey. Exercise induced stroke is very rare. People tend to talk about it more because it's rare and it's controversial. But because of that, a lot of people thought that they shouldn't go to gym or shouldn't do really strenuous exercises because there were these rare cases where people uh, were reported to have a stroke during a very high intensity exercise. But we don't know about their physical profile. We don't know what stresses they were going through. We don't know about their history, their medical and psychological history. Then there's weightlifting and stroke risk. The controversy is that some experts debate the safety of weightlifting for people at risk of stroke. The concern is that heavy lifting can sharply raise blood pressure, potentially increasing the risk of stroke. However, other experts argue that with proper technique and moderate intensity, weightlifting can be a part of healthy lifestyle that reduces stroke risk. And then there's hormonal influence of exercise. So some experts debate that sorry, uh, there is some evidence that suggests that exercise-induced testosterone boost might raise the risk of stroke. The role of hormones like testosterone and estrogen in stroke risk during or after exercise remains controversial. So, in conclusion, while the risk of stroke during exercise is relatively low, understanding the psychological and the neurobiopsychological factors involved in it's essential for prevention. Knowing that stress, anxiety, overtraining, your personality traits, they all can contribute to stroke risk, especially when combined with physiological factors such as having a weak nervous system or immune system. If your autonomic nervous system is dysregulated, be it inflammation or a person who has impaired cerebral autoregulation. Adopting holistic approaches, which include stress management, personalized exercise plans, and regular monitoring, individuals can safely enjoy the benefits of exercise while minimizing the risk of adverse events like stroke. So now that I have talked about the physical part of stroke and the psychological part of stroke, I want to ask anyone, if anyone is interested, the news that the events that were coming up, that people had a stroke while they were going through really high intensity exercises. What was your first reaction to it? And if so, did you really dive deep into it, or did you just think that, oh, maybe people who exercise could be at risk of stroke no matter what?
May I speak to this?
Yeah, sure.
Right. So I wonder about this a lot. High intensity training and what it may lead to. I
Hmm.
have come to the realization that often high intensity exercises are something that are pursued by people who are chronic smokers. Often it's
Okay.
the case that they are either trying to compensate or almost a sort of repentance towards their sin of smoking.
Hmm.
And they do it so much that it's like, you know how they say, like a glass of wine is healthy for you. But a glass of
Right.
wine after three bottles of wine will not be healthy for you. So their three bottles of wine is their smoking, their chronic smoking, and then their arteries they get so short, they get so constricted that exercising intensely might lead to a stroke. At the same
Yes.
time, gym cultures they push a lot of supplements which are not properly prescribed by doctors.
Hmm.
Often the cocktail of these supplements lead to imbalances in the body that are not properly supervised. And I think
Hmm.
one of the most major supplements that may lead to that is anything related to testosterone.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I know about strokes.
I completely agree with you, especially people who do not know what exactly the supplements that they're taking, whatever they're taking up, how is it affecting the body and how will it affect them when they will be exercising later. They're not aware about it. They just blindly take it. And yeah, it could be a huge trigger and a risk factor towards stroke. So yeah,
Right.
thank you for sharing your
Thank you.
opinion. Anyone else? Okay. Okay. Um, if there's nothing else, I guess we should end the session. In conclusion, I just would like to just say that be aware of what you're doing, if it's proper for your body. Make sure that your lifestyle is healthy, not comparatively to other people, but for compared to your own body. What you need is not similar to what others need. Make sure your physical health is um, proper, your psychological health is proper, and yeah, keep safe, be healthy. We will meet you next Wednesday for another session. Okay, bye bye.